I know it's tough during this summer afternoon to spend painful minutes, actually in our case almost an hour, in a crowded room. And me and Stan, we really appreciate it. I have a couple of good news. First, the mic doesn't mean that I'm insane or vain. It barely means that I need to communicate with Stan. That's the reason why I'm using the microphone, so that he can hear me. Unfortunately, he cannot be with us here today, but I'm sure there will be plenty of opportunities to stay in touch and to, listen to his presentation and learn about his work. Some of you might be familiar with already. He will, tell you more about his profession and his achievements, but he's been for many years involved in the topic of innovation in the film industry, and he's involved with a Cannes festival, and more recently he's, let's say, the founding father of the village innovation, which was part of the market during the festival. And if I'm not mistaken, it was about 1,000 square meters, presenting all of the tech companies, such as ReSpeecher and other innovation platforms and tools that you might know as well. He's also the head of mini MBA, as some of you may have heard this morning, focused on use of generative AI. And that's something that I personally find very interesting for two reasons. First, because as we know, it's important to get accustomed to the tools and at least to know what they can and cannot do. And also, secondly, in the EU we will have the EU Act, and one of the articles of the EU Act describes something that can be summed up as mandatory education for people who work with AI tools. Not only for developers, but also for companies who, on whose behalf their employees or other somehow related people are working with tools, including generative AI. And this sort of education, AI literacy, does consist from technical aspect that should be customized based on their knowledge and their profession and their scope of work. But it might also include some ethical and legal considerations that should be taken into account, again, based on the nature of the tool. And we spoke with Stan that perhaps we could do it as a part discussion and part presentation this afternoon. So we will present you the, let's say, extended portion of his morning presentation with more examples, more details, and I also have a couple of questions for him. So this time we will do it the other way around, and we will begin with the questions. So if Stan is ready, I have first question, very naive and very eager. What are the most interesting takeaways from the village innovation? Because I don't think there is anything comparable to this in scale and size in the film industry and technological innovation.
Sure. So good afternoon, everyone. I hope you hear me well. Those who didn't see me this morning, my name is Sten Salberg. I'm the head of Next, the innovation sidebar at the Marché du Film, which is the industry part or the industry market near Cannes. I also head the digital summit for the Prime Minister of Estonia. And actually, I'll show you later part of a consortium called Kreshina, which is a very unique team of academics, industry practitioners such as myself, and some festivals and organizations collectively, through basically publishing market best insights into different types of industry markers, whether it's production, distribution, country profiles, financing, and of course AI. We're trying to kind of keep the European cinema mission afloat and alive and kicking. I'm so sorry, I was very much looking forward to come to Karlovy. Last time I was in Karlovy was exactly 20 years ago. Well, it turns out to be that whilst we talk about AI, airplanes break down, and there was no way physically making it to Karlovy, although we were trying to find solutions the whole last night, so please bear with me remote, but you're very happy to contact me by any means. And as Veronica said, we're trying to make this as a more of an interactive session, so if you have any questions or remarks, just please jump in and let's try to kind of spot them on the spot. Now, coming to it. So for those of you who weren't in Cannes, so Village Innovation was actually technically the largest undertaking towards promoting screen innovation in Cannes that we've ever done in our life. And there is some type of a misconception that even Cannes and some of these big A festivals, that they somehow swim in resources and launching these big initiatives is very easy for them. No, of course it's not, and I guess I always say quite jokingly is that, Cannes is like any other festival or any other place, problems times 100. But one of the clear things what we have, what is really at the core of the marché is we really don't want to talk about innovation because of innovation. Our job is to empower filmmakers like you or financiers or producers or decision makers, and our place is to, or our mission really is to help and provide these business networking, deal-making, educational means in order for the industry to survive. And if it's 35 mm, or if it was 35 mm prints, well, it was that. Now it's AI, and then obviously we need to basically focus and filter and put out things that we feel are empowering the industry. Now, what we really felt was that Europe as a continent generally lacked a kind of a response or a focused initiative that would kind of take that screen innovation into very sharp focus. Because, and we already started with a pilot last year, we had a great collaboration with Microsoft, and if you kind of, zoom back a year ago, the situation around with AI was extremely tense. I'm not saying that it's very easy right now, but remember, the Hollywood strikes had just finished, and much of the SAG strikes were really about AI, what the guidelines are, who's going to get paid, what the working standards and practices are, and we can come some of these things later in this talk or later today. So everything was very, very sensitive, and we understood that there was something going on with this technology, and it was very risky to bring this type of a very novel AI concept to Cannes. And so together with Microsoft, we created an AI cafe, and we were actually quite surprised to see how well it was received. Both on the educational side, trying to build a dialogue, alleviate some of the fears. And out of that idea, or pilot, we created Village Innovation, which was a 1,000 square meter venue, which had its virtual production and real-time and AI production stage, and kind of a focus area for some of the companies in the AI space, as Veronica said, Respeecher, but as well as Letterboxd, which is now joining from a kind of a film diary to a data company, presentations by some of the leading AI filmmakers such as Paul Trillo and Verena Poom, as well as all types of other workshops and so forth. And the whole idea was to give this subject matter a prominence really from a perspective of a users of independent filmmakers. And if you ask me, I just counted that we had 44 sessions with more than 70 speakers, and some of the bucket list of the takeaways, what I kind of wrote down regarding the Village Innovation was the following, that what we really see is that there's some type of a market maturation or preliminary market maturation around AI tools and AI workflows. So if a year ago or even 6 months ago, things were quite experimental, that we could get some results, whether they were 2 seconds or 4 seconds or etc., then we now definitely see that if they're not exactly pro-grade level, then definitely they are prosumer level, and AI workflows can already come and benefit filmmakers here and now. It's a little bit of a TV cam type of situation, if you remember what it was, right? Very clunky video camera in the 90s. The quality wasn't yet great, but some of the amazing films were done on this, including 28 Days Later or Dancer in the Dark or anything else. So this maturation has happened in a 6 months. And what was very surprising for me also to see was that there are already studios in the United States and also AI model providers which are working on ethical, paid and filmmaker-driven models. So this whole idea of somebody coming and vacuuming your work in your house is over, because companies are starting to train their own models, and particularly, especially in animation and advertising, where their own proprietary work goes to serve their own needs. And I think that's a very, very interesting thing to say, let alone there will be models in about 6 to 12 months which can render ProRes and also broadcast quality material. So these technical limitations are being addressed pretty fast. Number one. Number two, the big encouragement for everyone in the hall is the fact that this is quite a nascent market, and this idea that it's only Google or Meta or OpenAI or someone else that who have a monopoly here, it's not exactly true. And what I really found out, especially in the entertainment industry, is that I would say that it's not about technology, but it's finding a good use case or it's finding a good workflow. So everyone kind of talks to everyone, and the great independent player can actually team up with a major player, with a major technology provider. And hence all the big ones like Runway, Leonardo, and also Google's Vivo and etc. They have their artist residency programs where the artist can come and work with the tools and actually provide some significant creative input and also creative outcome. And I'll show you a couple of examples later. So we should not really be afraid about the big tech. There really is a certain type of a communication line, and I personally feel that we need to use it more actively, because then we can shape the tools and then we can shape the dialogue rather than it being shaped for us. Number two. Number three, yes, what I also wanted to say is everyone learns, and I think right now we really there are some pioneers. And I think it's really a great time to pose a lot of questions and be very open about it. And it's really a collaborative learning environment where, again, more established players and more established doers are learning from kind of younger creatives and vice versa. And again, I'll come back. It's a bit of a DCP situation in 2008, where everyone kind of were trying to find their ways around the technology. And finally, and I'll stop my monologue around here, I think, and what I said also in the morning, it is not going to be one or another. So it's not like 100% AI native versus 100%, Alexa or a 35mm focused film. It's going to be hybrid or actually enhanced, where we'll see a lot of optimizations happening around, and these optimizations are pretty fast coming into especially to bigger studio environments as well, and it's a bit of a chicken and an egg situation, but I tend to believe that since the market is contested anyway, especially for distribution and financing, whatever tools and whatever processes help the filmmakers to solve problems, either real time or faster, these AI changements will be very beneficial for everyone. And last but not least, what is also pretty surprising to see is that ultimately it's really the quality of the content that matters. Great AI films will be at the festivals and they will be distributed too. Crappy AI films will not be at the festivals and then they won't be distributed. So I think there's quite a healthy sense of pragmatism, optimism, and realism. And obviously the one kind of a big caveat there, if I say two caveats, the number one caveat is that we're a little bit disadvantaged in Europe, not because of talent, but because of the uptake and education of basically trying to jump into this paradigm and making these tools work for us. And secondly, there is also the fact that since we are a bit distanced, sometimes it's quite hard to access those tools because they first roll out on bigger territories, and maybe we are somewhere later at the queue. So that creates a bit of a disadvantage. And last but not least, we can talk about it as a separate question. I think what is very necessary, and Veronica, you also alluded it in the morning, is that no one will. Well, there are also, let's say, bad actors or actors whose intents are not so clearly visible, and whether these are, countries and organizations on the other side of a political spectrum, which primarily want to use technology for control, for espionage, or for data access and so forth, and it's quite tempting for them to come into this game, and I say that they are very heavily already in this game, and you should quite clearly consider yourself what types of values or principles you have in place in order to address this. And that also relates to the point is this industry is moving so fast that waiting someone else to make a decision on it, whether it's your supervisor, whether it's your Ministry of Culture, whether it's the European Commission or anyone else, it's not going to happen because by the time they make a decision, there's already a new technical innovation. So primarily it's a blessing and a curse, but we ourselves need to develop the values and principles how we are going to adapt this technology, and I think the SAG guideline that came out of last year is actually very helpful starters that we in Europe can learn from.
Okay, thank you very much. Then I will try to add a few quick remarks, hopefully practical and useful to this topic. You mentioned a lot of use cases coming up, and I see also a lot of use cases related to the new trend of ethical development, ethical use, ethical training. And that's where I believe might be some interesting space for professional filmmakers, because my experience is that some of the startups, while they have the technology and they have the idea, they sometimes lack the knowledge of either film industry or the craft and art of film, or let's say legal dimension, given the copyright and other legal aspects related to their brand new potential unicorn. So I think it would make sense if you have the opportunity to be in touch with technology sphere in the area of mainly generative AI to try to support development of, let's say, ethical and practical tools, because that's where everyone can benefit from. I also agree with Stan that what we see now is the new chapter of approach to AI. It's not that much of a witch hunt anymore. We are now trying to find solutions. It doesn't necessarily mean that we found them already, but unfortunately in some cases of specific ethical or legal issues, it's much more visible now that the ship has unfortunately sailed, and there's only so much we can do now. As put it in simple words, the internet has been scraped already. So what do we do now with the copyright issues, with the personality rights or the right of publicity, but also what we do with other problems that are much less visible yet important in the area of filmmaking, such as culture appropriation, or use of historic and culturally valuable yet not perhaps copyrighted content that is being used for training and then used as the generated output, put it in a different context or a different narrative, which might also raise some questions. And now for the second questions then, pardon my French, I'm going to talk about money. So.
Oh yes, let's talk about money.
I know, let's talk about money. I'm sorry, we have to. So we see that this, I wouldn't really like to say a bubble, although part of it I'm really sure we will soon enough find out that there is a bubble within the bubble. But there are so many companies and potential partners who already jumped on the way of AI. Whether it's L'Oreal, whether it's Masterclass experimenting with our AI interactive tutors, or whether it's Mattel cooperating with OpenAI, if I'm not mistaken. These are people with massive platforms and with highly valuable IP. And on the other hand, you have a new trend of the lawsuits, famously now Disney and other studios. But these lawsuits are not against text-to-video tools, if I'm not mistaken, but text-to-image mainly, which is also interesting, perhaps sign. Perhaps you do not want to sue someone who you want to cut a deal with later on. So I was wondering, what is your take on it, Stan? Whether you see more potential for use of AI in highly commercial content, such as advertising, such as educational audiovisual content, or whether there is space for, let's say, higher artistic features as well, and what is the difference, perhaps? Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so I think first I have to kind of make my own faith position very clear, and if you will, I am not an evangelist, and I am not in the salary of a particular or a group of AI companies. I'm a very big industry pragmatist, and trying to kind of again find ways how we can keep our unique ecosystem here going. First of all, I think we, as an industry, and specifically in the film industry, and I have worked as a producer and VFX supervisor for in my earlier career for quite a while. We first have to basically build a language and understand what we are talking about, and these are pretty different types of conversations. If you, for example, talk about monetization of data sets, we talk about visual generation, and we talk about applications in AI, for example, for European feature film or TV series. They are all connected because of the fact that they are ultimately connected to some type of a paradigm or a domain, but ultimately the ups and downs and the pluses and the minuses are completely different. And we need to be very clear of what we are talking about. And some problems concern some stakeholders, and some problems don't concern other stakeholders. So I would kind of first of all say that generally a training problem doesn't concern an independent production house. If the production house don't have any types of assets that they want to be trained on, or they want to have they want to have exploitation or money making on, it's a bit more nuanced, but I'll come to that. So in a way, it says that you don't need to worry about it. This is for, there's many other problems you need to solve in the first round, and so don't judge the whole AI discussion about the way of what you see is happening in the domain. Yes, they are shaping the paradigms, but I would say that the conversation is akin to a state of co-production agreements, right? You know that they are there, they regulate co-productions between countries, but you need to have an understanding or a capability to read them, but not wake up every morning and concern about Estonian and Czech co-production agreements. So let's kind of start from that basis. So number two, I would say there are like geographical differences and very pragmatic differences what are going on, and some of it we also tackle our own mini MBA. So we also have to kind of understand that it all basically comes down to copyright, and the copyright. And Veronica, you are much of a more lawyer specialist than I am, but we have to kind of understand that in the US if you are engaging with the film industry, this is primarily work for hire, and you will give your rights, or you will possess rights of someone else in the particular ecosystem, which then also, what we can also deduct from there is that if all these rights, and specifically creative rights, and monetization rights aggregate with studios in a present environment where they are putting a lot of emphasis in a kind of a free market economy into training, a lot of solutions, both commercial and otherwise, are popping up. And what we definitely see is that in the United States, and I'm so sorry to tell you, according to my own numbers, at least publicly, they've committed more than $1 trillion in the next few years into building different types of AI models and tools. So the implementation will be very fast and very large scale. Is that uniformly good? Of course not. Of course not, because what will happen is that a lot of things will break, and it will primarily break in news media, for fact media, and etc. Technologically, they might be really good, but the social impact of them might be quite wobbly and or quite, I would say, complex. And I guess in Europe we have an opportunity to either respond or build another type of an ecosystem, or if you wish so. So things are going to go in very fast. What we definitely see is that in advertising production, and I'll show you a couple of examples, I can say that it's going to hit in very, very big time, both in terms of delivery of final content, as well as planning inside of agencies. So a lot of agencies are training their own models right now, especially for storyboard and to develop assets for brands. And the aim there is not to take the creative's work, but again to basically build things faster and iterate things faster and come to better concepts and ideas. It's the famous Lionsgate and Runway deal. where the risks of financing films is so high that the idea for Lionsgate, and I truly